To anyone that owns a Roadtrek, in particular a Roadtrek 210 Versatile or Popular, possibly other models, between probably 2006, 2012, possibly longer, possibly earlier, a macerator was used to substitute from a 3-inch diameter or 4-inch diameter expandable hose for sewage. They went to using a macerator, in this case a ShurFlo macerator. And in order to use it, it was mounted underneath the gray or the black water tank. And then the gray water would also bleed into it. And so it reduced down to about a 1 inch in diameter by use of the macerator exiting out. Well, because the macerator was mounted on the passenger side of where the drive shaft is under the vehicle, many times a rod was used to extend into the hole in the back side of the macerator over to the driver's side, and could be located just adjacent to the gray and black water release valves when you pull the storage unit out. Well, the home that I bought, 2007 Roadtrek 210 Popular, somebody in their infinite wisdom replaced the ShurFlo macerator with a Jabsco. The Jabsco is different that it doesn't have a removable plate on the back end to which the rod would press into, or would engage the slot that you use a standard screwdriver in. That's if you don't have a rod, to clear any kind of blockage. So I decided to go ahead and create a bracket and a rod using some parts that I had on hand. But if you don't have them, hopefully, if you're willing to spend about $30 or less, if you got the material on hand, my investment is probably about $8 at this point, maybe a little bit less, because I had certain things on hand. You can make yourself a bracket. And I've got another video that shows the back end of the macerator, the ShurFlo, and the difference between that and the Jabsco. And my creating a 6-inch long or possibly a 4-inch long tube out of copper and I flared the end so that it would seat inside that little pull-off backside bracket. And so drilling a hole through it, a clearance hole, is actually 30 seconds. I think my video said 30 seconds. That was my mistake, but a 30 seconds diameter clearance hole through the back of that with a flared end of the copper tube. It extends out and is anchored. So that allows for a guide for a 1/4-inch diameter rod that I use. So that is what this is right here. The final product, or at least it's roughed in, and it will work. I cut a 36-inch piece of rod. And on the end of this 1/4-inch rod, I tapped for a 1/4 thread. I had a 4-point knob in a bin that I had that had a brass insert that was already set up for a 1/4 thread. And so on the opposite end, I ground, if you can see this or not, there's a flat on the end here to represent like the tip of a flat blade screwdriver. The bracket that I made is 7 inches long, about 1.25 inches wide, because I had some bar that I salvaged off a cabinet. And so I bent up the ends, and then I drilled a clearance hole for the rod to go through. Now, how to stop the action, or start and stop the action? I went to a local Ace hardware store, and I got 2 1/4-inch set collars that have a set screw in here. Let me turn this around right there. So anchoring one collar on this side of the bracket, putting in a small spring. If you don't have any springs, you can go to Home Depot. There's a pack for under $5 that has 84 springs in it, folks. These cost me $3.59 each from the Ace hardware store. If you go online ahead of time, you can probably get them a lot cheaper. But the spring, since if you divide $4.50 by 80 springs, that's what, about 50 cents, if that, for a spring. Well, less than that. So anyway, this gives the action, the stop action, it'll allow this to go. I also drilled a hole to anchor this to the frame underneath the motorhome. The original Chevy chassis is 2.5 inches wide. There were 2 holes that were pre-drilled for a pre-existing bracket that was not there. So I got 1 screw hole in this right now to anchor this in place to see how it's going to work, and then I will put another one in. But this movement allows for engagement into the macerator and springs it back so it doesn't exit out of this. This end will be in the 4-inch tube coming out of the back end of the macerator, acting as a guide. It'll never go that far. So once I get this in the home, the position of this is going to change. As I move this in, as this is anchored to the framework, this bracket's going to be more up in that end, probably about 6 to 8 inches away from where that knob's at. I just wanted to show this. I just came in my house. I wanted to show this device. So if you don't have a crank handle underneath your home, but you have a macerator, it will have to be a ShurFlo type macerator that's got a removable, not a cap, but a plate that covers the slotted screw that clears the debris in the macerator. The Jabsco doesn't have that. The SeaFlow doesn't have that. This is a little bit more expensive, the ShurFlo is. But this will allow me to use this bar. You might come up with something else if you got a Jabsco, but this is going to work for the ShurFlo that I just bought.